Okay, so I'm still really confused here, but maybe you can give me
Sure.
some clarity. You are aware that in Russia, abortion was also legal under first wave feminism going into communism, right?
What time period?
Would you like the exact dates?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that this was roughly, hang on, let me pull it up. I got it in my notes here. USSR was the first country to make abortion fully legal, up to term, and paid for in state hospitals. Within 10 years of implementing that policy, they had 3 abortions for every 1 live birth, and they had to outlaw abortion again.
Again, what time frame?
I'm trying to pull the dates up here.
Sure.
Yeah. Hang on. I didn't write the date down for that.
I'm just wondering, essentially, against like the conditions.
Looks like around 1920.
1920.
Yeah, later restricted then banned in 36 because of this problem. So it was 1920 through 36, right around roughly the same exact time as what other amendment was 1920? Do you know? Amendment in the United States, 1920.
Yeah, the right to vote?
Yeah. So
I'm
right
sorry,
around,
are you saying that's correlated somehow?
No. I just think it's interesting that the right to vote and feminism, because in the 20s it was roaring, and same thing in Russia, but they had 3 abortions for every 1 live birth they had outlawed. Literally had outlawed. They didn't
I mean, that was a time where Russia was a pretty war-torn country, wasn't it? Because Stalin was overthrowing the monarch regime and the Bolsheviks.
Yeah, they definitely needed to have human beings. They knew that, but that was the problem is that if you have 3 to 1 on the live births, you can't sustain the nation. So when they reintroduced it in 56, it looks like that's the time period that they re-legalized it, was in 56, had significant regulations on it to prevent that from happening. So hang on, so I'm just saying the reason I bring this up is because you claim, well, descriptively this isn't happening now. Okay, but descriptively it was happening when it was allowed without laws against it. So I have actual evidence.
Right. So again, like obviously this can be conditional outcomes depending on certain things. Do you think that the sooner you have an abortion, the better?
I mean, I don't see how, like from my specific worldview, from the secular worldview, because I always think abortion's wrong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that would be one of my argumentations, is that if you were having essentially a society to where medical access wasn't available, or it was at a high cost, then this could delay obviously your opportunity to get an abortion, which may cause it in later stages of pregnancy.
Yeah, that's rare.
What do you mean?
That in later stages of pregnancy you're going to have abortions, right? Isn't that what you said?
No, it is rare because access is available. So I'm saying if it's happening later in pregnancy, it's most likely because there are times where access is not available.
Yeah. Okay. So from your view, you're just saying, like, because you don't see a distinction, right? You just think life begins in some arbitrary point, like 24 weeks or something, tied in with consciousness or something silly, right?
Something silly.
Well, it is silly because you can't define consciousness. It's not a definable thing.
I mean, do you think you have a subjective experience?
Sure, but that's not defining.
Subjective experience
that's not
made
defining
of?
Consciousness.
What is that subjective experience made of?
I have no idea. Do you? What's it made of?
I think it's made of a lot of different components of things, but the fact that you recognize that it exists
doesn't define what it is.
And what do you mean? What kind of definition do you want?
Well, tell me what consciousness is. The ability to have experiences?
Yeah.
So, are you saying that you have no experiences when you're unconscious?
Well, I think there's other aspects of experience that not just only go into terms of...
So you are having experiences, even when you're unconscious?
Well, I don't think consciousness and being conscious are necessarily the same thing.
They're not?
No, like I wouldn't say that... like someone who is sleeping doesn't have consciousness, even though they're unconscious.
You don't believe that when you're sleeping, you're completely unconscious.
I'm sorry? What?
You said earlier you don't believe when you're sleeping, you're completely unconscious. When we're talking about grape.
You're completely unconscious?
Yeah, you said you didn't believe that you're completely unconscious when you sleep.
You are unconscious. That was my main tenet, is that you're having sex with someone who's unconscious.
Yeah. Okay, so then if you're not unconscious, if you are unconscious when you're asleep, are you experiencing things when you sleep?
Yes, you can still experience stimuli.
Then how could you be unconscious?
Because of other qualia. Qualia, sensation, emotions, your ability to dream.
If consciousness then is defined as one who has hang on. If consciousness is expressed as one who has experiences. Hang on.
I'm sorry. Can we get back to?
No, we can't. I just want to make sure.
I feel like we pivoted from.
No, we really didn't pivot. You pivoted it here.
No. You said arbitrarily at 24 weeks. That's a different subject than what we were talking about.
Yeah, but I just want to
table that. But
can
I
we
want
just
to get
finish
back
this
to
real
the 20...
quick? It'll only take 1 second.
Oh, fine.
Consciousness, one who has experiences, is conscious. If you're having experience when you're unconscious, then you can't be then you must have consciousness even when you're unconscious, right?
Yes, there are aspects that you can have consciousness when you are unconscious. I don't
So are
think
you
that
actually
those are
unconscious?
synonyms. Yes, because I think unconscious and consciousness are different.
What?
Like,
What's different? I have no consciousness, or I do?
What is being conscious to you?
I don't. Well, it's not a thing again that's definable, really.
I'm just in terms of, so you when your wife is sleeping, that's as good as she's awake.
What do you mean?
In terms of conscious and unconscious.
Yeah, I think that she still has consciousness
When she's sleeping.
Yes.
Even though she's unconscious.
Right. Well, no, she's not. No, she's not. I don't think she's unconscious. I think she's knocked out.
What's the difference?
Well, this is the thing about consciousness. Like I said, it's not definable. I think therefore I am is the best we can come up with.
But we agree.
On what?
That when you're sleeping, you're still have consciousness.
I agree with
even
that.
though you're not
from your worldview,
conscious.
Yeah, from my worldview, that makes sense. From your worldview, that makes no sense.
Why does that make sense from your worldview?
Because you're the one who's making the determination as to when life begins. It's 24 weeks because of consciousness.
What do we mean by life?
Consciousness.
What do you mean by life?
I'm doing an internal critique. Then you can do your internal critique.
It does, because we do, like, obviously there's different there's different terms when we talk about, like, the mode of life. Like, I'm sure you would recognize that cellular division and metabolic life is very different than someone having a subjective experience.
I agree it's human life. You agree it's human life.
Yes.
Great. There's no disagreement there.
Right.
What I'm saying, that's before 24 weeks.
But it is different than someone having a conscious experience.
To you.
Or a subjective experience.
Yeah, to you.
Why is that not different
because
for you?
For you, that's the thing you value, not the life itself.
Well, yeah, without a subjective experience, there's no society, right?
Right, but the problem is that you can't demonstrate there's no subjective experience before 24 weeks. So that's one. And two, even if you could say there's no subjective experience before 24 weeks, consciousness itself is the one thing that human beings really don't understand very well.
Okay.
We just really don't understand it at all. So it's not easy to define. We don't know why we have it. It makes no real sense, right? It's a thing not well understood. So the reason I point out that it's arbitrary is because it's kind of impossible to prove that there's no subjective experience before 24 weeks in a fetus. It's just like impossible to prove that.
I agree. I guess it's in kind of I classify it as like the same as like puberty. Like, obviously there are certain metrics that you hit when you have reached puberty, but when does someone like go through puberty or experience puberty, or how long does puberty take is going to be different. So sure,
it's
depending
an arbitrary
on
metric.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah, so that was my whole point. Is like you came up with a 24-week arbitrary metric.
I think in some instances, like there are going to be some instances where yes, things are arbitrary. It's just you just have to draw a line somewhere.
Okay.